Okay.
Good. Yeah, I'll send out a reminder if email in case people are having trouble getting in.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy.
Can Jeremy send it to?
Yeah, he's gonna send it.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Naomi Pemberton. I'm the chair of the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee. Tonight, we are going to open up the meeting at 7:12. I apologize for the late start. There was a meeting beforehand. So first, I don't think we did any minutes. No one here? Okay, no one here. So we will work on that, on getting the minutes out or getting the minutes posted. But tonight we are privileged to have a guest speaker. Her name is Alexandra Sirik. And I'm very excited that she was able to meet with us tonight. And she is from Case Closed Project. And she is going to discuss if you have any, she's going to talk about her organization first. And then if you have any anything on your record, your police record, or any criminal records, she's going to talk about how that may be removed or the channels that you can go through to see if it can be removed. So I'm very excited, and thank you, Alexandra, and you can begin at any time. Jeremy, can you make her a co-host or have her ability to share her screen? Jeremy?
I think that he may have made me a co-host already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Alex Chidich. I'm an attorney at the Legal Aid Society. I am part of our Case Closed project at Legal Aid. And as part of this project, we serve people in all 5 boroughs who have some criminal conviction on their record or some kind of issue stemming from, even an arrest that, is still showing up that shouldn't be. And so what we do mainly is we help people get a copy of their rap sheets, understand what's on their criminal record, and advise them about their options on how to clear it. And since 2017, New York has had a brand new sealing law that's helped a lot of people seal their old convictions, but it was a very burdensome process where you have to apply to a judge. It helps to get a lawyer, to assist you with it. And so a lot of people didn't know they qualified, didn't know how to do the application, and, didn't get their conviction sealed. And also it just really limited how many people qualified because you could only have 1 or 2 convictions maximum. So what I want to talk about with you tonight is a brand new law that was just signed by Governor Hochul in November, which is called the Clean Slate Act. So I'm just going to pull up my screen here and share a presentation with you all. Are you able to see my screen here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. I look slightly illuminated, but as long as you can see the presentation, that's great. So Clean Slate is a new law that automatically seals convictions for most civil purposes. And I say civil purposes right off the bat because those convictions are still going to appear for criminal justice purposes. So we always like to be very upfront about the fact that, this new sealing law will really be benefiting people when it comes to employment and housing. Those are the 2 main civil benefits where it's not going to show up on most of those background checks. But it won't make a difference if someone, happens to be rearrested or otherwise investigated by law enforcement. The key point here is that sealing of a criminal conviction will now happen automatically after a certain period of time and after certain criteria are met. So you won't have to apply to a judge. You won't have to fill out any paperwork. It'll happen automatically. And again, these records are not going to show up on background checks for jobs, housing, and education. And what happens to the records is just that they are no longer visible. They aren't physically destroyed. they're simply sealed. For the general timeline, it was November 16th, 2023 that the bill was signed. The law will become effective November of this year. So it takes 1 year to become effective. And then the state agencies that are responsible for sealing these records have an additional 3 years. So until November 16th, 2027, to fully implement the law retroactively and seal, a huge number of convictions. And it is a little frustrating that it takes so long, but basically the state has to put into place a number of complicated systems, create an algorithm, do all sorts of things that currently don't exist, and create the structure for this new automatic sealing law. The waiting periods. There's 3 categories of offenses that are going to be covered by this new sealing law. The first is a traffic infraction, driving while ability impaired. It previously wasn't covered by any of the older sealing laws. It was a bit of a fluke. That's going to be now covered and seals automatically after 3 years. A misdemeanor would also seal after 3 years, and a felony would seal after 8 years. And we're talking about these waiting periods. The time actually starts running on the day that the person is sentenced. If there's no incarceration involved, if someone is just sentenced to, say, probation or a program, or simply time served, the day they're sentenced, that 8-year period will start running. If they do serve any time in jail or prison, the time doesn't start running until after they're released. And in terms of what offenses are eligible, it's going to be everything except sex offenses, sexually violent offenses, and non-drug Class A felonies. Some additional conditions, and you have the waiting period, you wait either the 3 or the 8 years. But then at that point, once that waiting period has come up, you can't have any new, pending criminal charges, and you have to have completed probation or parole for the conviction that you're waiting to seal. The things that will disrupt the waiting period, that's going to make that waiting period restart, is if you get a new criminal conviction, or if your probation and parole is revoked and you're reincarcerated. So not everyone will benefit, unfortunately. There are going to be people who aren't going to get the benefit of sealing because, they have a new conviction or they have some kind of, probation or parole revocation. So you only get that automatic sealing if you wait that full amount of time and you have no convictions during that period. You've completed probation, parole, and you've got no pending criminal charges. So just to give a few examples, the first example here, if someone is convicted of a misdemeanor in 2024, they get 3 years probation. They're discharged early, they do great. They have no further problems, no convictions, no pending charges. This is the classic example where if you stay out of trouble, the conviction will seal after 3 years. So it'll seal in 2027. The next example is a felony. If you serve, convicted of a felony in 2020, you serve 5 years in prison, you're released in 2025, and you have no new convictions, no issues, no pending charges, everything goes well, the conviction will seal 8 years after you get out of prison. So that'll be 2033. Sorry about that. And then the next example is if there is a parole violation. You're convicted of a felony in 2020, released to parole in 2025, but your parole is revoked. So you go back to prison, you're released again a year later, and after that second release in 2026, everything goes smoothly, no violations, no convictions, no pending charges. It'll be 8 years from the last release from incarceration. So that felony would seal in 2034. And then the final example is if someone has a felony and then a subsequent misdemeanor conviction during the waiting period. So if you're convicted of a felony in 2020, you complete a drug program, but then 6 years later, you actually do have a new misdemeanor conviction and you serve a year in jail. Starting in 2027, that's when the clock starts running on the old conviction and the new conviction. So from 2027, it'll be 3 years for the misdemeanor and then 8 years for the felony. So in that example, you see how everything takes a lot longer if you get a new conviction. It's not going to seal automatically as quickly. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Because I know I'm going very fast.
I have a question.
Yeah, but
If, say, if this records are sealed and then the person commits a felony, do those records become unsealed again, or are they, those prior records sealed?
Yeah, so if someone has a felony conviction in the past and it seals, because say they're out of trouble for 9 years, right? That conviction seals. It will not unseal for civil purposes. It'll stay sealed for employment and housing purposes, but it will show up on that person's record when they're going through the new case. Like, so, for the new felony case, everybody, in the courtroom, the judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney will see that old felony, and that person will be subject to all the, sentencing enhancements and exposures that they, unfortunately face because of the prior felony. But if you have a previous sealed conviction, it's not going to unseal it for employment purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, are drug-related felonies included in the sealing process?
Yes, they will be included in the automatic sealing process.
Thank you.
I have just a question with regards to the process to expunge. How does this work in parallel to this? Or is the process of expunging in addition, how does it fit in?
Sure. So in New York, we kind of don't really have expungement, like proper expungement, where the records are completely destroyed. There is a very limited form of expungement for old marijuana offenses that took place a few years ago. But otherwise, if you have any kind of criminal conviction, you can either apply to a judge for sealing, or you can get this kind of automatic sealing through the new clean slate law. And if you qualify for either the older law or the newer law, you can take advantage of both, Some people will be eligible under both of the sealing laws to either apply to a judge after 10 years or just to, get the automatic sealing after 8. So I'll go into that a little bit more because there are definitely like multiple options for people, and this is not the only option.
Thank you.
any other questions? Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, I just have a few more slides here. So the exceptions where a sealed conviction under clean slate will still show up are going to be certain types of jobs that involve a fingerprint-based background check for working with vulnerable populations like children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. There are also certain entities that are mandated by law to consider sealed records when they're running a background check. You also have the New York State Education Department is one of those entities. When they're hiring for public, private, religious schools, licensing, private transportation companies like Uber and Lyft will also still have these records. And of course, for hiring of police and peace officers, they've long had access to all sorts of records that are otherwise sealed. So these are, it's kind of a long list of these exceptions. That's why I kind of try to make sure people understand it'll help you with most jobs, but not every job. And so when people are interested about their options, I usually explain to them, the different types of sealing laws, the ones that'll help them, but I also always want to ask them, what kind of jobs are you applying for? And especially to keep an eye out for jobs that involve fingerprint-based background checks. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be, all sorts of criminal justice purposes where these sealed records will still be visible. So if someone is rearrested and prosecuted, everyone can still see those records who's in the court system. If you're applying for a firearm license, those records will still show up. And the DMV will still have access to driving related sealed records for driving jobs. And immigration agencies will also have access to sealed records. That last one is just an incredibly important one because a lot of people are under the impression that sealing a past record might help them with immigration if they're having trouble getting a green card or citizenship. But immigration really has special access to all of these records. And so it's good for people to know that just because their record is being sealed, it's for employment and housing purposes. It's not going to help them out with immigration, unfortunately. And then I mentioned earlier that it's, this new clean slate law where the records are sealed automatically is not the only option, especially because there's so many exceptions in the law for people who are undergoing certain very rigorous background checks for, jobs that require a license or some kind of like special access. There are these other sealing laws that our project can help with. And so we always screen people for every possible option. And then I wanted to mention that the Clean Slate Coalition, which is made up of all the advocates who've been pushing for this law to get signed, we have a website, cleanslateny.org, where we just recently published a very long FAQ. We have monthly Q&A sessions. We're going to have, community events where we talk to people about understanding this new law. And we're also going to have a directory of legal service providers if people want individualized consultations. So that website will continue to be active and like a great source of information in the coming years as people start figuring out, how is my record sealed? What does this mean? And they want to speak with someone directly. And on the last slide here, if you have any questions, especially from people in your district who have issues getting a job because of, things showing up on their background check from decades ago, that's exactly what we help people with. So if, you want to direct anyone to talk with us, our email is caseclosed@legalaid.org. And we also have a hotline where people can leave a message and we'll call them back. And that number is 212-298-3102. So thank you very much for having me, and I'm happy to answer any more questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so that was a lot of information. So, we're going to process it and probably people, someone has a question. Diana?
Yes, I was interested to know if there's any plan to track this to see, to gather data, for instance, and to see, are people going to be having an easier time of finding jobs? Will people get housing more easily because of this? I mean, I guess it's still some years away to be fully implemented.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that when the state of Michigan implemented their new record sealing law, they did have, academics who took all the data and processed and analyzed it, and they came up with great statistics about how it reduced recidivism and how people, got higher paying jobs and employment rates improved. So I'm really hoping that, something similar happens where academics take this data and really, show the benefits of the new law. But so far as I know, I don't think the state has any specific plans to do that themselves. And I'm also happy to, if it's helpful for you, I know that was a lot of information. I can also share the PowerPoint, send it to you via email if you'd like to distribute it.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really wanted to have this session because there's so many people who are looking for jobs and or housing or certain things, or they're are out of their grasp because of this situation. And I just wanted people to, our community, to know that there are people out here or organizations out here to help you. So I'm so happy you came to talk about what your organization does, and I'm hoping it will help a lot of people in District 11. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Take
Thank you,
care.
you too.
So, okay. The next thing I have on the agenda is our calendar. So I wanted to just show you what I think we should have. If anyone on the committee wants to change it, that's fine, or want to have anyone come and speak. But next month, I'm going to have Swipe Forward come for Black History Month. And the reason why I'm having them come is because they primarily focus on Black and Brown individuals who are, jumping the turnstile. So they receive donations to help in terms of, like, if someone needs to get on the train or the bus, they help them, they'll swipe their card for them, or they'll have people help people like that have their fare paid. So I wanted her to come and talk to us. So that will be next month. And March, we're going to talk about social media policy, because that was a big issue when I had the meeting about meeting etiquette. So I was going to have a discussion about that, how we can improve what, because the social media policy was a sore issue within the meeting. I want to make sure that we have a discussion about it, because everything we can do here, we should try to improve. If it's causing anxiety or issues or anger. So I'm hoping that we'll have a discussion about social media. We'll go over the social media policy given by the Borough President's Office, which I'm going to be introducing hopefully tomorrow. The board will accept my tip sheet on what is proper social media expression or postings. And next, in April, I would like to talk about doctor and nurses striking. Is that ethical? In May, is the business of marijuana ethical? Right, I want to talk about that. I want to kind of open up the discussion, how people feel about all these disparities coming to our community. And in June, there will be no meeting. The board will be closed July and August. September, I don't have any topics. So if anyone wants to speak about, wants a topic that month, or we can have no meeting, whatever you'd like to do as a committee. In October, I would like to talk about artificial intelligence, ethical or not. November, discussion on conduct statement, false information. And of course, in December, we can have another meeting about etiquette, and maybe rather than just presenting on etiquette, maybe just discuss, did we do a better job this year? Is there anything we need to improve? Or any recommendations anyone has? And if the main point of just having a schedule so that we kind of know what we're going to be doing every month. Of course, we're also going to have our cases. Our cases are, as complaints come in, we will also schedule the cases around the topic of discussion. But I really wanted to turn this meeting into helping the community. So that's why I'm so happy Alexandra was here came, and she spoke about closed case and, and the new law that came in, which I didn't know about. So that was really good information. And I'm hoping that every month that I'm able to present something that the community can really benefit from. So if anyone has any ideas or things that they would like to see come from the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee, I am open to it, as well as the committee, or if you have somebody that would like to speak in regards to ethics and disciplinary actions, I am open to that. Okay. Any questions from anyone on anything that I've stated or?
No.
Okay. Next, I want to open up the gallery session. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about this evening?
I don't think anybody has.
Okay, no one registered? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, I wanted to welcome Phyllis Nastasio. I hope I didn't say your last name wrong, Phyllis.
That's
Uh,
fine, that's perfect.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Naomi.
To our committee, thank you. So she will be starting this month on our committee. I think also Susie Perez applied. Susie?
Oh, yes, yes, she did. I have to get back to her.
You, okay. So I wanted to, before the next case, just have the committee full or ready so I can reach out to everyone and make sure I have their numbers and their information so that I can remind everyone about the meetings and anything that comes up. Okay. So we don't have a quorum tonight, so we can't have any votes. We don't have anything to vote on, which is great. Does anyone have any old business that they would like to bring up at this time? Okay, good. Anyone have any new business? Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. So, can we vote, I guess, we can't vote on adjourning the meeting?
You can make a motion to end the
Can we
meeting.
make a motion?
No, we can never end the meeting now.
Oh, now
Oh,
we did.
no, as chair, I guess you could call for adjournment.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining.
Those that came should not be penalized.
Thank you for everyone for joining this evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at our full board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adjourning the
Night, everybody.
at 7:38.
Tomorrow night is my quarterly.
Night.
Yes, I saw the email.
Good night,
I
everyone.
saw the email.